Hello. It's a pleasure to be here and thank you for having me. So when Fredo contacted me and asked me to present about the DNI, he asked me a specific thing. He said, can you predict the future based on the DNI data? I'm afraid I can't, but what I can give you is some background and insight into the 2 years that we've been running the DNI. So just for me to get a sense of who I'm talking to, can I just take a show of hands of who hasn't heard of the DNI? Okay, so I would say it's about 2/3 of the audience. So what I'm going to do first is introduce myself, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the DNI, and then I'm going to go into a reflection about the last 2 years, and then I'm going to give you some examples. So just a little bit about me. So I'm based in London, and my job is to talk to news organizations across the region that I cover and to evangelize about the DNI, the Digital News Initiative. So what I thought I would do is just have some people telling you what the DNI brought to them, and then I'm going to go into some more details.
Rethinking and reinventing journalism in the digital age is something that's very exciting, something that's very challenging too. It's an experiment. It's about building visual representations of debates. We are mapping debates. Debates are the heart of every democracy, because democracy is about finding compromises. CAUSA can be a very important contribution because we show all the different stakeholders how they stand to each other to give an impression at first glance what a debate is about. We call the project a companion app. The idea is that it accompanies you through your day. When you're commuting in the morning, you'll get a different newscast from NZZ than the one that you'll get when you're sitting on your couch on Saturday evening. If personalization is done wrong, you end up just seeing the feed of your friends and not seeing anything anymore that's kind of outside your little garden.
We're trying to use virtual reality as part of our everyday storytelling. What I want is for Euronews journalists to be able to have this tool as a new way of telling stories. The 360 video really allows the audience to make their own decisions and to learn rather than feeling that they're being lectured to or told what to think. What I love about the project is that there are no rules, and the only guidance that we have is from our audience and how they respond to it. Technology gives an opportunity to journalists to go and take their stories and to make their stories stronger, more powerful and more meaningful in people's lives.
We see very important opportunities in new technology in journalism because it helps us to spread news. There are so many ways to bring it to new readers.
The DNI Innovation Fund really gave us a structure through which we could step back away from the day-to-day news cycle and really think about how we were going to prepare for the future.
So, in short, what we try to do, and the Innovation Fund was created 2 years ago, what we try to do is to release some funding to foster innovation amongst news organizations. So it's 150 million euros across 3 years, and anybody can apply, and I'll go through some of the criteria for how you can apply. But the idea is that this is just to, spark some new ideas, and it's across. You've seen, some 3 examples, but it's quite varied as to the range of topic that it can cover. It's available in Europe only, and it's across 32 countries. And what we're looking for is mainly, projects that would leverage technology and digital, and there is a slight focus on collaboration. And for the little story, we've already had 3 rounds now, and we're in the middle of round 4. And round 1 was kind of, what you would expect from the industry. And then from round 2, we started seeing more collaborative projects. And in fact, there are some in Belgium, and the Belgium news organization have piloted a model where they partner with academics and startup and themselves to bring some projects to life, which I think is a nice, combination. So there are 3 types of projects you can apply for. The first one is prototype. It's up to 50,000 euros, and there are no restrictions. It can be anything, and you can be just an individual to apply. Then you have medium, which is between 50,000 and 300,000, and then the large project, which is between 3,000 and 1 million. So what are we looking for? What are we trying to look into the projects? So 4 criteria, and this is specifically for round 4, which is the window of applications we are currently in. And in fact, bear that slide in mind, because later on in the presentation, I'm going to explain why there is a 4th criteria here. So as you would expect, with this large pot of money, we needed to build some governance, because one thing that I should make very, very clear is this is not Google investing in project. This is the release of funding for innovation. But we needed to ensure that the selection of the projects was quite strict and was following the criteria, and that Google didn't have any say into the selection of the criteria. So there is a project team that is run within Google, but I have no connection with them in the sense that they're completely independent. And in fact, so this is the project team. So it's about 6 people, Googlers, but also people from outside of the industry. And what they do is when the applications come in, they do a first pass at reviewing and doing some short lists. And that goes to the council. And the council is 13 people, 3 Googlers, and 10 people from the industry. Academics, business people, editorial people. You have a nice, I think, mix of different skills, expertise, and also point of view, which, I suppose guarantees the fair review of all the projects that come in. So I just thought I would, look at the numbers so far. So as I said, we're in the middle of the round 4. So if you think about 3 years, 2 rounds per year, we have another 2 rounds to go. So we had over 3,000 applications and 748 projects shortlisted. Just over 350 projects who got some funding across 29 countries, and we're just under 75 million. And as I said, the round 4 is, right in the middle. So now, I think I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into what Fredo wanted me to say, which is what are the trends we're seeing across, the different projects that have come through us, and how, could it maybe detect some patterns. So I hope you can see that slide from, at the top of the audience. But this first graph shows you the distribution of the type of companies that have applied. So there is just under 50%, which are the established player news industry. But then you have kind of a nice mix of different type of companies, and even industry association have submitted some applications. So One IFRA, for example, have applied applied for virtual reality project, and they wanted to look at the monetization option in virtual reality. But you also have academics, online pure players, radio, TV, you name it, which I think is just shows the healthiness of the project. Those are some of the themes we've seen across all of the projects. So they're quite varied, and I think it's a good indication of the variety of the projects we got and how also the stimulation worked, just to try to get a different kind of type of projects. So what I wanted to sorry, I'm just losing my sort of thread of thought. At this stage, I wanted to mention a few of the UK projects. So I'm closer to the market where I'm based, and just to give you a feel for the type of project. So, for example, there was robotic data project from the Telegraph in the UK, where they were analyzing rugby matches data to have a real-time visual representation of the rugby matches. That's one project, so it was a prototype. Then you had the regional news organization Trinity Mirror. They built an app to give you called Perspective, and as the name says, it gave you the perspective on one given piece of news, so kind of a neutral stance, the pro and the against position. So that was another of the projects in the UK, and another one called Kaleida, which is a startup, and they were trying to analyze data from social media attention, so referring to what one of the speakers at the beginning was saying, the economy of attention, and trying to define a new currency for that social media attention. So this is just to give you a flavor of the type of project. Now, pay attention. I'm going to list 7 categories, and I will ask you, so shout, out of those 7 categories, which one were the most, where we got the most project. So, intelligence, data management and workflow, interface and discovery, next journalism, so kind of, the new form of storytelling, social and community, business model, and distribution and circulation. So I don't know, just shout out the top 2 out of those 7. Storytelling, okay. And second one? Intelligence. Well, you've seen the slide, Fredo, so you're cheating. So data, yeah, I think you mentioned data. So, yes. The top 2 were intelligence and next journalism, so kind of the new formats of storytelling. This classification was done by the Innovation Fund team. We asked academics and people from the industry, and we realized that there was no such thing as a classification of the type of projects that would come from the news industry. So we made up that, so bear with us if it's not quite how you would have made it, but it gives you a sense of all the different topics that were covered by the projects. And this last slide gives you a sense of, in the different rounds, so round 1, 2, and 3, what was the flow. And in fact, so in one of those categories, next journalism, no surprise, but fact-checking has been on the rise and represents, about a fourth of the project that came through. And for the little story, we got some fact-checking projects applied for some funding before fake news became a thing. So, in hindsight, I suppose we could have spotted that trend, before everything that happened. So now, what I'm going to do is just show you, so I mentioned some of the UK projects verbally, but I have some slides on some of the some projects, and because this is, fast-forward media, and so we just thought we would try to pick some examples that are more relevant to you. So, the first example is from Spain, and from El País. And what they applied to the Innovation Fund is for a project where they could analyze video real-time data so that the editors and the newsroom could adapt the way they were presenting the news content in real time. So that's El País in Spain. Trint. Anybody has heard of Trint? It's a UK startup. So the founder is Jeff Kaufman, and he was a seasoned news correspondent. So, he reported on the Arab Spring. He did pretty much all the coverage on some of the wars. And what he did, and I think it's based on his own experience, he wanted to have a tool that would automatically do some speech to text and where you could edit. And I'm assuming then it's helping for the coverage and the reporting. So that's Trent, startup, prototype. This one is from Spain again, and it's from Prisa. And so this was to leverage radio audio content. And so what they wanted to do is, by doing the transcript, tagging, and so on, they wanted to then make the distribution much more seamless and also the discovery on the internet of this audio content. So that's Hertz. And the last one is an example of a collaborative project. So it's a company called Camera Lucida and France Télévisions and some other partners. And what they did is they wanted to rethink an immersive storytelling. And so it's around, virtual reality. And I think you're being put in a situation where you are in front of, some of the people in conflict zone. So you can, be part of that interviewing process. So that's about it, from me on some of the trends. What I would leave you with is this. There is a report which is downloadable online on the Digital News Initiative website, or you can email us and we'll send you a hard copy. This has got all the trends and features, 19 projects out of the 300, and I can't remember the exact number. And it gives you some of those data trends about, the type of innovation that you see across the news European landscape. And if you want to find out more, please go there. And the next window, so window round 5, you can probably expect it to open around mid-March, something like that. Thank you.